So again, welcome everybody. Thank you for participating. I'd like to begin by making a short statement. It takes leadership to reform long-term problems in county government. Free gas and personal use of cars has been going on for all 7 years of Charlie Dooley's administration. And nearly $2 million of taxpayer money has been wasted. He has not demonstrated any leadership to fix the waste of taxpayer money. Perhaps because most of his highest paid county employees, all of whom drive free cars and get free gas, have contributed 1% of their salaries to his re-election campaign. This practice needs to be reformed immediately. Because of Mr. Dooley's failed leadership, it took Fox 2 News and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch to bring to light the waste of taxpayer money. Like most citizens in St. Louis County, I am outraged at the abuse of taxpayer money. Thus today, I am calling on Mr. Dooley to immediately reform this practice. I am calling for the immediate end of the use of county vehicles for personal use. I am calling for the immediate end of free gas. I am calling for the elimination of free cars for department heads. Instead, I am calling for all department heads to submit their government-related business mileage for reimbursement.
Hello, this is Bill Corrigan.
Thank you. Hey Kevin, welcome. That concludes my statement, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
This is Joe Annis with the Beacon. Obviously, what they're saying is, although they're not emphasizing it, what they have been saying is that over the years, not just in the county, but also in the city, they've looked at it and they contend that the free cars are cheaper than paying the reimbursement.
Well, first of all, Joe, that's not what they're claiming. You saw in the Post-Dispatch yesterday, they contacted an expert who claims that it's a no-brainer that it's a lot cheaper to have mileage reimbursed. Secondly, as you saw from the Post yesterday, a lot of these folks are just using their car to commute. No one in the private sector in America gets a free car and free gas for unlimited personal use. It doesn't happen. And so for these department heads who are so highly paid, who contributed 1% of their salary to Mr. Dooley's re-election effort, to have the free use of cars when the rest of the counties are struggling to make ends meet here in the greatest recession in a century, for these folks to get free gas and free cars is wrong. And there's no justification for it. And it's just not, it's a waste of taxpayer money. It's been going on for 7 years. We've spent nearly $2 million on this, and we need to fix it. And we can't wait. You know, Mr. Dooley has taken an about-face. On Channel 2 last week, he must have said 10 times this has been going on for 30 years, and he defended the practice. Now his press spokesman says suddenly they're going to revisit it in 2011. The people don't want to wait till 2011. The people want action now. The people want leadership now. So Mr. Dooley needs to fix it now, and that's what the county council should do as well. They should get involved in this and insist that this practice end.
What about the argument that vehicles are a tool, a part of the job, just like any other, and that someone who puts a lot of miles on a vehicle, you know, it makes more sense for them to just be able to take that vehicle home?
Well, we've heard from some of the employees that have been interviewed that they're just using it to commute. They just use it occasionally for business purposes. So, again, no one in the private sector, Adam, has the right to use a car for personal use and get their gasoline paid for. And so the practice needs to come to an end. If someone has a legitimate government-related trip, then their mileage can be reimbursed, and that's going to save the taxpayer money.
Yeah, Bill, how did you arrive at that $2 million figure?
I arrived at that figure by taking the $260,000 figure that was reported by Fox 2 News. It was about $235,000, Paul, in maintenance and other costs associated with the vehicles, the cost of the vehicles, and about $25,000 in gas. So it's about $260,000 a year. And I just assumed that that was an average figure, and I multiplied that by the 7 years, in which Mr. Dooley has submitted budgets during his 7 years in office. Could be higher, could be lower than that figure, Paul.
Did you talk about, Bill, if you're a county executive, whether you'll have a county car, or how many people would legitimately have cars in your view?
I didn't talk about that, Paul. What I talked about was the immediate use of county vehicles for personal use and the immediate end of using vehicles for personal use and the immediate end of using vehicles for free gas. And that would include the county executive. When I have the honor of serving as your county executive, I will not use a vehicle for personal use. And I will not ask the taxpayers to pay my gas bill.
So if elected to serve as county executive, is this something you would revisit at that time, that some departments may be allowed use of a vehicle, or that you would have an across-the-board ban?
Absolutely. I will look at the issue. If someone legitimately drives around the county all the time on county-related business and it makes more sense to the taxpayers to have a car, that would be an exception to the rule.
Do you have any unanswered questions now about the current policy, whether they're keeping mileage logs, or when you look at the way the Dooley administration is using its vehicles? The article pointed out a lot of things, but are there some other things that you still don't know about that you think need to be asked?
The article doesn't go into depth about how many of those department heads pretty much just use it for personal use. In other words, the article doesn't talk to each department head to see how much they really use it for business purpose. You can look at the department heads. I've got the list of the folks who've contributed to Mr. Dooley's re-election campaign. There's 11 people on this list, all of whom make, most of them make over $125,000, and they all have cars. Now, I can't imagine why the Director of Human Services, the Director of Revenue, Director of Planning, Director of Administration, I don't know why those folks are driving all over St. Louis County and need a car. Why can't they just submit their legitimate government-related mileage to get reimbursed?
What about the theory that this is just a perk and that these are talented, qualified people who could potentially make more in the private sector, and that this is just one way to entice those kind of qualified people to serve this kind of job?
Well, most of these people make $125,000 or more, so they're well compensated, and they're appointees of Mr. Dooley. And I would submit to you, Adam, that the taxpayers who have been through such hardships over the last couple of years are offended to know that these vehicles are being used for personal purposes and that they have a gas card. When gas is nearly $4 a gallon and these folks are getting free gas, it's wrong.